Question number 13 was 20,000 take away 408. 20,000, there's your 20, and for 1,000 you put 3 noughts. So there's 20,000, and I've got to take away 408. So that's the sum I've got to do. So for a taking away sum, the big number at the top, small number underneath, levelled off on the right, and then you have a go at doing the taking away. So, start on the right. Nothing take away 8. You can't take 8 from nothing. There's nothing there to take away. So you've got to borrow. You cannot borrow from naught. You've got to keep going until you can find something that isn't a naught you can borrow from. And when you borrow, you knock that number down by 1. So 2 knocked down by 1 becomes a 1. And the one you've borrowed goes here. So this now becomes a 10. Which means I can borrow 1 from it. And if I knock that down by 1, that becomes a 9, and I can put the one I've borrowed there. And now this is a 10. I can keep going. I can borrow 1 from there. That makes it 9, and the one I've borrowed can come here. And now I can borrow 1 from 9 and 10 and make it 9, and put the one I've borrowed here. And now I can do 10 take away 8, which is 2. 9 take away nothing, which is 9. 9 take away 4, which is 5. 9 take away nothing is 9. 1 take away nothing is 1. So there's the answer to that one, 19,592. Next question, question 14, was 48 times 23. We've already done some times in questions, and I'm going to do this the same way. I'm going to split this up. 48 is 40 and 8. And 23 is 20 and 3. And I'm going to make this timesing grid, this multiplication grid here. So I split both my numbers up, 48 into 40 and 8, 23 into 20 and 3. And in here I'm going to do 2 times by 4. I'm going to ignore the noughts to start with. 2 4s are 8. And between these two numbers there are 2 noughts. There's one there and there's one there. I now need to write those 2 noughts down. Over here I'm going to do 2 times by 8, which is 16. And between these two numbers there's 1 nought. There's 1 nought here. I need to write that down. Down here I'm going to do 3 times by 4. That's 12. And between these two numbers there's 1 nought, which I need to write down. And over here I'm going to do 3 times by 8, which is 24. Now these 4 numbers I've come up with all need to be added together, and I'm going to do that separately in a sum over here. 800, 160, 120 and 24. I'm going to add these numbers together. Make sure they're all lined up on the right, start on the right. Nothing, 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 and 4 is 4. Nothing and 6 is 6, add 2 is 8, add 2 is 10, which you write like that, the 1 and the 0. 8 and 1 is 9, and 1 is 10, and the other one down here makes 11. So there's the answer to that question, 1,104. Next question, question 15. Question 15 was £20 take away £5 and 5p. This was question 15. So that £20, we ought really to write it in pence as well. So 20.00. That will make it easier. And I'm going to take away 5.05. So I'm going to put my big number at the top, and I'm going to do my taking away, and because they're decimals, I've got to make sure the decimal points line up. So this is the taking away sum I'm doing. 20.00 take away 5.05. Nothing take away 5 I can't do. So I've got to borrow. I can't borrow from a naught. I've got to keep going until there's something that isn't a naught. I can borrow from here. And borrowing, you reduce that number by 1. So 2 reduced by 1 is 1. And then you always put a 1 at the top of the next number. Then I can borrow from here. Knock that down by 1, that makes that 9. And the one I've borrowed goes here. Knock that down by 1 becomes 9. And the one I've borrowed comes here. Now I can do 10 take away 5 is 5. 9 take away nothing is nothing. 9 take away 5 is 4. 1 take away nothing is 1. And I must put a decimal point in, still lining them up. There's my answer in pounds. £14.05. So there's one mistake I just made here. I noticed it. I hope you noticed it too. 9 take away nothing was 9. So that should have been a 9 down there. £14.95. I hope you spotted that one. Yes, I did it. Right, the next question. Question 16 is 19.8 take away 6.92. 19.8 take away 6.92. Again, another taking away question. Big number at the top, small number underneath, but you've got to line up the decimal point. So 6.92. I get my taking away like this. Now there's a gap here above this number, so put a naught in there. And a gap like that, after a decimal point, you can put a naught in to fill the gap. So the first question I've got to do, or the first part I've got to do here, is nothing take away 2. Well, I can't take anything away from nothing, so I've got to do some borrowing. I move over to find something I can borrow from. I can borrow from an 8. The only thing you can't borrow from is a 0. So I'll borrow from that 8. I will knock that 8 down by 1 to make that a 7. And I'll put the one I've borrowed here to make this 10. 10 take away 2 is 8. 7 take away 9 I can't do because 9 is bigger than 7. So I need to borrow one from here. So I'll reduce that 9 by 1, make it into an 8. And the one I've borrowed goes here. This is a 17. So I've now got to do 17 take away 9. Now if you find something like that difficult, 17 take away 9, count up from 9 until you get to 17. Don't count the 9 itself. Count as in 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That was 8 numbers I counted up from 10 up to 17. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 was 8. That will go here. 8 take away 6 is 2. And 1 take away nothing is 1. And because I had decimal points here, I've got to have decimal points here as well. My answer for that one then is 12.88. This video will continue now in part 5.